Good afternoon. You are welcome to our Distant Learning English webinar for the students of the 10th form. Today we are having another class of our English for the 10th formers. Last Wednesday, as you remember, we had a new topic, a new theme on the phone, which was connected to the smartphones, telephones, speaking on the phone, and everything related to this topic. Today I invite you to go on with this theme. I hope that you managed to learn all the new vocabulary that we covered last time. New words, collocations, new phrasal verbs. They might come handy in our today's lesson, and as well in getting ready for your English exam, final exam. So let's go on. But before we start, I would like you to answer such a question. How do you manage to get in contact with your friends? What do you do? How do you phone them? Of course, you can call them, you can video chat, you can do anything else. But mostly you use your smartphones to call. You discuss your questions, you discuss your problems, but you cannot see each other face to face. So are the British friends. They also call each other. And now I invite you to listen to one dialogue between British teenagers. So let's call them Ollie, Cassia, and Mary. So these are three British teenagers, and we are going to listen to their short dialogue between them.
Hello?
Ollie, hi.
Sorry, who's this?
It's Kasia.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I didn't have your number saved.
No worries. Listen, some of us are going rafting this weekend. Do you want to come?
Wow, that sounds great. Yeah, sure.
Brilliant. I'll text you the details.
Okay, cheers for the invite. See you then, I guess.
Bye.
Well, that's a short conversation between two friends, Ollie and Kasia. What are they talking about? They are talking about their plans for the weekend. What do they want to do? They want to spend some time having a rest. After the busy week, after the daily routine, they need some rest. They need to have some fun. So Kasia is calling Ollie to ask if he would like to join her and her friends to do something at weekends. So they are talking to each other. Ollie and Kasia are talking on the phone. What kind of situation is this? This is the situation of the so-called direct speech. The direct speech. What does it mean, the direct speech? The direct speech means that some person or the participant of the conversation says some exact words. They are in some specific situation. They address each other directly. They respond to each other questions. So they are communicating with each other in that very moment. So that is why we call it direct speech. Пряма мова. Direct, пряма. Good. Now you may logically ask me, and where is Mary? I told you that let's see at three people, three friends, Ollie, Kasia, and Mary. Ollie and Kasia are talking on the phone. Where is Mary? Logically, where is Mary? She's not talking. She's not talking. But she's one of the friends. She's one of the friends, and she is also planning to have some fun at the weekend. How would she know what Ollie and Kasia were talking about? Of course, she can find out if Kasia tells her about this conversation. What kind of situation is this? When Kasia retells their conversation with Ollie to Mary. It's not the direct speech because she retells this situation. So it is called the reported speech because we report the previous conversation. What does it mean, report? Доповідь, пояснення, повідомлення. That is why reported speech – це непряма мова або передана мова. Передана розмова. Ollie and Kasha communicated, they had a conversation, and then Kasha, for example, retold or retells, if it is now, this conversation to Mary. That is why it is called the reported speech. What's the difference between the direct and the reported speech? First of all, mostly the direct speech sentences are simple. They have subject and they have predicate. Of course, there may be complex sentences, there may be compound sentences, but simple sentences prevail. What about the reported speech? The reported speech sentence consists of two parts. The first part is the reporting part, because we usually say somebody says or somebody tells and so on. And this first part is introduced with the help of the reporting verbs say or tell or ask. So these are the most frequently used reporting verbs. Say, казати, tell, розповідати, and ask, запитувати. So in terms of ask, if we deal with ask, it's quite clear. That's about questions. What about say and tell? They are the synonyms. They have similar meaning and they are used in similar situations, and they even may be substituted. We may substitute each other in some cases. But still, there is some difference. So when do we use say? We use say if we report the exact words. That is why we should say something. Say something. We use tell when we address to somebody, when we inform somebody about what we were talking about. That is why we use to tell somebody. That's the difference. Say something, tell somebody. Though the meaning is the same. The meaning is the same. You may ask, and can we use say if we give some information to a person, to somebody else? Of course we can use say, but still we need to introduce the preposition to. So that is why to say something to somebody. Or just tell somebody. Just tell somebody. So mind, if you have a sentence in which there is to somebody, so therefore you should use say, not tell. Because say to somebody. If there is no to, but there is somebody, you should definitely use tell somebody. These are the so-called reporting verbs. These are the reporting verbs. This is the first part of the sentence which introduces the information. The second part of the sentence, of the reported speech sentence, is the information of the conversation. And it differs. Okay, so let's take an example from our dialogue. In the dialogue, Ollie says, "Sorry, I didn't have your number saved." This is the direct speech. As you can see, it is marked by inverted commas. So you can see inverted commas. Then you see that Ollie calls himself I, and the sentence is simple. The sentence is simple. We have I, the subject, didn't have the predicate, and all the other parts of the sentence. So that's direct speech. How would we change it into the reported speech sentence? First of all, we need to say who says. It's Ollie says. Ollie says. Can we use tell? Of course not, because there is no somebody. We don't say to whom he is addressing. That is why we use only says. What goes then? If it is the complex sentence, there must be a conjunction. Conjunction сполучник. In English, we use that. But this that can be omitted in English, and it's up to you to use it or omit. You may use it or you may omit it, there is no mistake. Then, in the direct speech, only says, I didn't have. He calls himself I because that's his words. When we report the sentence, we cannot use. We remember that Kasia is reporting their conversation. That's Kasia says about their conversation. That is why she can't use I, because I would be Kasia, and she reports all his words. That is why she uses he, because Oli is a boy. He. Then, didn't have your number saved. Yes, didn't have no changes. Then Oli says, I didn't have your number. Your number, your means Kasia's, because he is talking to Kasia. When Kasia reports these words, she can't say your because she is talking of herself. That is why she uses my. Oli says that he didn't have my number saved. So as you can see, we have changed some of the pronouns. And this is the first part that you should remember. That when we report direct speech, we should make some lexical changes. And according to what we have just decided, these changes are obligatory because the whole situation changes. The participants change. So the participants of the conversations are some people, and this conversation is reported to the other people. So the participants changed, the time changed, maybe the place changed. That is why the whole situation changed. Therefore, we should make lexical changes. Now let's have a look at what kind of lexical changes they are. If you have a look at the screen, so as we have already told, these lexical changes happen always, all the time. Each time that you report the direct speech, you should make these lexical changes. So, as you can see in this table, these are the pronouns. The first 3 lines, these are the personal pronouns. So I changes into he or she depending on the person. You changes into I, we, he or she. That also depends on the context, because you can be used referring to different people. We changes into they. So these are personal pronouns. Me, you, us, these are also personal pronouns in the objective case, and they change correspondingly. The next 3 lines are the possessive pronouns. So, my changes into his or her, your changes into my, our, his, her, our changes into their. So that's personal, that's possessive pronouns. And correspondingly mine, yours, ours, which is absolute form. And finally, the last line you can see, these are the demonstrative pronouns. So these changes into that, these changes into those. So the first group of words which change during the reporting in direct speech are pronouns. Personal, possessive, and demonstrative. Okay. So don't worry if you didn't have enough time to copy this table. Yes? So you may come back to this moment and rewrite this table if you watch our video, which would be on our YouTube channel for our Lyceum. Можна завжди повернутися до цього моменту на відео, якщо ви подивитесь, переглянете це відео у записі на нашому YouTube каналі Центральноукраїнського наукового ліцею-інтернату. Крім англійської мови, ви також побачите ще інші записані наші вебінари і зможете завжди знайти навчальну, додаткову інформацію по тих питаннях, які будемо вам пропонувати. Now let's go on. The other group of words which also change is the adverbials. Adverbials of time and place. So, today changes into that day, tonight, that night, tomorrow, the next day or the following day, next, the following, ago means before, last, into the last, yesterday, the day before, now, then or at that moment, here, that's about place, changes into there, and this place changes into that place. So as we have already mentioned, all these changes happen always. Now, let's imagine a situation that Kasha decided to report their conversation to Mary on the following day, or maybe in a day, or maybe next week. She didn't have enough time to do it at once, so she had some time passed and only later she reported. What changed? The time changed. The situation of the conversation, the time of the conversation was present for Oli and Kasha, but later on when Kasha reports this conversation, that conversation would be passed in relation to their talk to Mary, to her talk to Mary. So let's imagine that Kasha reports her conversation later on. Then reporting verbs would be used in the past as said or told or asked. Said, told, asked. That's the past. Now have a look at the screen and come back to the same sentence. Oli says, sorry, I didn't have your number saved. So, Oli is talking about his past. When he is talking, the fact that he didn't have his number saved, that was for him in the past. How would we report the sentence a little bit later? We use Oli said, which is past simple, then that. We have lexical change he and then my, as we have already discussed, lexical changes. What about the tense? Something that was in the past for Oli and he uses past simple is the earlier past for Kasha. And what tense form do we use to introduce action before other past action? Of course it is past perfect. So we should use hadn't had. So there is the grammar change. So when do we have such grammar changes? As we have already told, if the reporting verb is in the past. Only in this case we have these grammar changes. Now let's have a look at these grammar changes. So the general rule is, and it's the second rule for the reported speech, that there is the time shift one tense back. So the present changes into the past. So you can see present simple, past simple, present continuous, past continuous, present perfect, past perfect. Then the past simple and past continuous change one tense back, which is past perfect and past perfect continuous correspondingly. Let's keep past perfect, we'll come up a bit later. What about future? We know that no future can be used if the main clause is in the past. Therefore, we should use would instead of will. As well, we use the past form of modal verbs. So, can should be changed into could, may into might, must into had to, and the intention is expressed, am is are going, into was were going. The last two lines, if you have a see, we have no changes because in English there is no other tense form which is used before other past time. So past perfect, as it is the earliest tense form, the action before other past action. So it remains unchanged, as well as the modal verbs could, would, and might. So these are the grammar changes that happen only when the reported verb is in the past. Let's train a little bit more. So let's take another sentence from the dialogue. Kasia says, we are going drafting this weekend. Let's report it into the past. So, Kasia said, again, that, then according to the rules of lexical changes, we should change. Kasia is talking about a group of people, so we should change it into they. Then the tense form are going changes into we're going, present continuous changes into past continuous. They were going drafting, this changes into that weekend. So as we can see, lexical changes, we changes into they, this changes into that, and grammar change are going changes into past continuous. Another sentence, I'll text you the details, Kasia says. So again, Kasia said that I should change into she because she is talking of herself, then will changes into would, and you changes into him because she is talking to Ollie. Change him the details. She would text him the details. So these are the grammar changes that happen when the reported verb is in the past. So all in all, today we have discussed the general rules of changing the direct speech into the reported speech. And we have understood that there are always lexical changes because the situation changes. And sometimes if the reporting verb is in the past, there must be grammar changes made. Now, the last logical question. Why haven't I told anything about ask? Because as you know, ask is reporting the question, the reported question, and this is going to be our next lesson. So I hope that you will understand, you will learn everything that we have covered today. I hope that you will have some time to memorize all the changes, and I hope that you will be safe and sound and healthy for our next meeting next Wednesday. Take care.